Good evening. Welcome to the ISD 191's School Board Committee of Policy Review. I'd like to call tonight's meeting to order. The date is April 15th, 2025, and it is now 5 p.m. First, we will begin with new policies, starting with Dr. Chris Belmont, Policy 524, Personal Electronic Communications Devices and Cell Phone.
Good evening, Director Zalt, Hume. A little atypical that we have a new policy to present here at Review Committee. So this is, as Chair Alt mentioned, personal electronic communications devices and cell phones. Moving through it, listed at number 524, we started with the MSBA model policy and then worked with school administrators who had been working with their school communities since, I think, last June around how to operationalize some of the new legislation. So just to share some of the components, just the different definitions around electronic communication devices, some of the rationale and reason for having this policy, some of the expectations depending on the age level, K-8 versus high school, 9-12, with the kind of the primary differentiating factor between age levels is K-8 essentially away for the day with no exceptions. 9-12 has that line more around instructional time. Some limitations and different exceptions around the personal electronic devices and the cell phones, as well as kind of a broad overview of some of the progressive action administrators could look at if things aren't going well. And administrators are teaching staff. So again, just checking in with a lot of staff members that are working with students, especially 6-12. This seems to match towards what, if not current processes, procedural goals at the sites.
Great.
Feedback.
All right, so we will, I think since this is a new policy and there are changes throughout, I think I might stray from the traditional review and go section by section, so, if there are questions, we can kind of be organized about it.
Sounds good.
So starting with, let's go to sections 1 through 3, definitions, and general statement of policy and purpose. Were there any comments there or questions?
Not up to those sections now.
Okay. I had a question in section 3F, more of a clarifying question. It mentions storage options may include but are not limited to in the student's backpack, in the student's locker, locked pouch, or designated place in the classroom. Do we think that is all, the backpack and that terminology is all encompassing? I just think about, a closed purse or handbag. Do all students actually carry backpacks these days?
You're referring to E?
F.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I would need to go through and see where that term is used throughout the rest of the policy. So that's a good question.
It's F.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Do you know what I mean? I'm curious where it's showing.
The context, yep.
Yeah.
Are you asking us to add more than the backpack? Because it says may include.
Yeah, and I guess I'm not asking that you change it per se, just had we considered, because I can see with purses and handbags, some of them are open, some of them are closed, and I could see there being issues around a closed backpack versus something that's not listed, like an open purse, that might create issues.
We'll look into that.
Yes.
That's good. Thank you for asking.
Yeah. All right, so next we'll go to section 4. I think we'll just do section 4 all as its own section. Were there any questions with that?
Yeah, so in this section, this reflects the current expectations that we've had in our schools this year for the most part, right? Seems like, okay.
Yes.
So my other question related is just thinking ahead, these sorts of things tend to evolve over time. So given that this is so explicitly laid out in this policy, are we talking about it's going to have to come back to the policy committee every time a school has an adjustment to their administration of this? Yeah.
That's always the dance with
That's
policy and
right.
practice, and our student handbook trying to mediate between the two as best as possible.
So you have, excuse me, policies that come up for annual review? Maybe this is one you want to add to that list, so if there
I
are
think so.
changes.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yes.
Yep.
Hopefully it wouldn't need to be more than once a year, but barring legislative changes, of course.
Right, which a bill is pending that.
That's what I hear.
Must be banned statewide and for all K-8, and then away for the non-instructional time, I think, is the current language for 9/12.
It'll be interesting to watch.
Yes.
And I have a couple of questions that I had written down in advance, but I'm just noticing turned off versus silenced. Is that a new change? Can you explain the?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So our administrative team really felt like the essence of that model policy language around turned off, the intent was for it to be non-disruptive and, away from instruction and all that was meant to be. They had real concerns about how to enforce that policy language, that they don't have the resources nor the wherewithal to differentiate if something's turned off or silenced and shuttered. So that was just from that practical lens came up.
And I guess, the devil's advocate to that would be it works both ways. Like, how are they going to enforce silenced if we step away from turned off?
Well, if it buzzes, it's not silent. If it rings, it's not silenced.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was the feedback from our administrative team.
Okay. And then, the removal of in A1A, strike through for designated school day. I'm just wondering why that's being removed. Because it would seem to me that, for the clarity of the students, it's okay for them to have their phones out before the school day begins. They might be at school, right? Is that the?
Well, I think it was sometimes we modify the schedule, if it's an early release, if it's if they don't think it's just a
Got it.
regular school day.
Okay, that makes sense.
We'll see if the implementation, causes.
Yeah, I don't
Anything
recall
else?
why that was striked out, if it was in
I
the
looked
model
at it.
policy, but it didn't match what our language was. I guess I need to reflect too on what does that really, what's the
Right.
differentiation between designated school day and school day from how we operationalize.
Yeah.
So
Well, and
that's
it
why-
says earlier
I didn't change it.
that it's from bell to bell, so I think
Change
that's,
bell to bell.
the definition is earlier in the policy. So,
Unnecessary.
yeah, it might just be like an unnecessary word, honestly. That's how I interpreted it.
Yeah, bell to bell is in the definition, and
Yeah.
Right.
instructional time until the dismissal bell rings. So whether it's an early release, that's the academic school day.
Right, which is why I think designated is probably just not needed.
And then the model policy language in staying in A to C, however, such use is discouraged. What was the thinking behind striking that?
Necessary.
It's just, trying to enact this with students, they need such concrete language, and then I would argue the staff does too, so we're really trying to figure out how to strike that balance with practicality and just being as concrete and clear as possible, so.
Well, and I think there's also a certain amount of modeling and encouragement around that, right? Like, come on, guys, there are other things that you could be doing with your time other than your cell phones, right?
Yes, correct. Yeah, the teaching of it is so important.
All right. We'll go to section 5. Limitations. Any questions, comments? This was another use case of backpack, just for tracking purposes.
Actually, the point 3 under limitations about students may not use the device to record, transmit, post audio, videos on school grounds or on a school. I'm just thinking of like sporting events, like those are on school grounds. Kids are going to be there with their cell phones recording their friend, making the game-winning shot or something, and interpreting this would seem like that would potentially not be allowed. I don't think would be the intent.
Unless there was a regulation that said, sporting events outside of the school day.
Right. Well, that's why I'm asking, exactly,
Yeah.
because the way it's worded, it doesn't say that.
It doesn't have those activities, so that would be permitted.
What's that?
The activities and athletics based on this, it would be permitted, that they would be allowed to record or post videos.
I think that's another one where
It doesn't say during
Practicality
the
of the
school days,
policy.
that's why I,
Yeah.
I have to double check with MSBA why they put that provision in there. My assumption
And
is that
during the
it's,
school day.
yeah.
well, I think from a legal standpoint, it doesn't matter if it's your friend or not,
Right.
you're capturing their data and sending it out. So from a practicality lens, it happens and it's something
Right.
that.
I mean, I'm assuming the intent is we don't want students pulling out a phone if there's a fight by somebody's locker, those kinds of things that we've seen from every school. So from that sense, it makes sense, but I question for outside of school, outside of events, like extracurriculars, basically.
Can check in on that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Although the legality, the liability outside of the school day is kind of the same as far as private data, no?
That's what we need to check with
Yeah.
legal and
Question,
MSBA too.
That's a good question, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think this is section 6, exceptions.
Director Alt, where was the backpack referenced in?
Sure, that was,
Sarah?
where did
It's
it?
F, wasn't it? Something F.
Well, there was F, but then there was section 4A, 1A,
2?
no.
It
Hold
was
on.
3F.
Oh, it was 524-5-3, section 5B. Storage.
Got it, thank you.
Yep.
Okay,
Here it is.
check on that.
Okay, so
As
we're,
Director Hugh mentioned, this one might be a work in progress for quite some time, especially with, like Dr. Battle said, this legislative feedback too.
section 6, exceptions. Any comments or questions?
I don't think so.
Okay, yeah, I didn't either. Moving along to section 7.
I think the way it's laid out looks fine. I guess the question would be, does our staff have the time and the ability to enforce this in the way that we would want them to consistently?
Well, I think we've learned a lot this year. I met with a ninth grade team, and they saw a remarkable difference between last year's ninth graders and this year's ninth graders because they had the cell phones away. And they didn't mention there were any issues with following through with them if they didn't. So I don't know if when you talk to the administrators, did they have any anecdotal stories? Anecdotes about?
No, I think the first sentence of each of those levels gives the administrator and teacher an opportunity to work together. Paired with the student handbook, it'll be okay.
Okay.
But we will see, we'll bring it back.
Well, again, work in progress, right?
Yes.
And I guess my question is the vague, when I read the model policy language, it was very clear. The steps were very clear.
Right.
The responses were clear. With this language, who actually brings the cell phone to the office? The teacher, the student, the administrator?
So that's where what Director Hugh mentioned, they're giving enough discretion for that to play out, given whatever the available resources are at that moment, whatever the specific needs are in the school. It's trying to strike that chord right now in the policy. That was,
So like a level 2, they may call the dean. They'll use, anytime they make a discipline referral, they'll use that process.
And I guess, in terms of the full board discussion, the clarity of the model policy language was kind of the focus of that conversation. So I feel like we can tighten this up a little bit. Understanding that you want to give flexibility, I think we also need to have greater clarity around certain points along the way.
And the other part about the model policy, looking at the cost to have those locked bins, and then also legally taking possession of it, having different teachers with cell phones. So I think that's something we need to look at too. So right now, if a dean may come and they will take it, so then you have this one kind of location, not several. So also worried about access. Many students and then people aren't looking.
Well, and
So that was one
there are places in the classroom that are locked, no?
Right, a teacher will lock their things, but then they have, so we actually looked at, the middle schools looked at, what's the name of the
Yonder pouches.
Yonder
Some
pouches.
schools gone to those, similar to events where you have a device on the wall. Students each have their own pouch, and then they lock their phone in their pouch, and then the teacher would put that kind of apparatus on the wall, and students would unlock it at the end of the day or whenever it's an
So we
appropriate
did,
time.
they did vet that a little bit.
Looking at, for our 612, looking at about $150,000 of launch money, and then about $20,000 of annual upkeep and maintenance for a system like that. So, that cost wasn't the only factor. We did a
Right,
deep dive into that.
Yeah, I think we can get greater clarity along the way. In terms of where the phones will be, this is just a little too loose. And I think, given that families and students will be going to this policy, if it's too vague, we might get ourselves into trouble. So Section 8, school district responsibility.
Yeah, I believe this is all model policy language.
Let's just see.
Did you have any comments?
C was just shifted from
From
another
there
location.
above, yeah.
So, I think maybe limitations.
I had Section 8B. The school board directs the superintendent and school district administration to establish additional rules, et cetera. And I think in keeping with prior conversations, we should remove school buildings because we're really talking about K-8 and 9 through 12, as opposed to building by building.
School building.
Yeah, it's at the bottom. These rules and
I'm looking
procedures,
at
sorry, may be designed for specific school buildings, grade levels, or pursuant to a similar criteria.
So remove school buildings.
I would say remove school
specific
buildings
for
because we've really been
specific
talking about
levels.
grade levels.
Because we want consistency across.
I mean, I think we should, I don't know how we wrestle with this, but our alternative high school has just different school climates, culture, bell schedule. Those are some of the things we've been working through.
Yeah.
So I'm
So,
always trying to find that balance between being, like you said, consistent and really like clear, and then understanding that there's varying needs at different times in our buildings.
But this is model policy language, and the last time you presented this language, you indicated that your conversations reflected levels, not buildings. So why wouldn't we?
The last time we presented, it was very broad and vague. We did not have the level of specificity and detail as this, so it's kind of shifted a little bit about our approach, which I think we can probably make it work either way, with them in there or not. So.
and I hear what you're saying about FAS. But also, we have, 8 elementary schools, so I think we brought up when we had the full board meeting conversation about this, and
Right.
wanting to make sure that if you go to Gideon Pond or Sky Oaks or Harriet
To your
Bishop,
point, yeah.
you've got the same policy in place. So having consistency across the grade levels regardless of which elementary school you're going to or which middle school you're going to,
Yeah.
in my mind, maybe we need to have something.
In working with Principal Ron, I think we could remove specific school buildings and still make it work, so that's good. I understand.
Anything else? No. All right. So I think this is coming back.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, though. Thank you for this productive conversation.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You said a work in progress. And by then,
Yeah.
there may be new legislation.
Yes,
Who
yeah,
knows what'll happen.
exactly. All right, moving on to electronic, policy 634, electronic technology acceptable use. Staying with Dr. Belmont.
Yes, and this is actually staying with a similar conversation about cell phones and personal electronic devices. We originally had, our approach was to embed that cell phone policy from statute, or that requirement from statute into this policy, but taking a new approach means we could probably, for the sake of redundancy or avoiding redundancy, pull out that language from this specific one. So then it's just some reorganization and removing that piece. I do think we probably can't, I'm almost certain we can't do it until it's been formally adopted, but we probably want to make a note of adding 524 to future cross-references for this
I was just
one.
thinking that.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, any questions or
Nope.
comments? I only had one. 634.13, Section 8, limit on screen time. This, and it starts with, "This section does not apply to a child for whom the school has individualized," et cetera, et cetera. And this was new language in the prior draft. So I guess my question was, if we're not looking at the policy language in the previous policy, what answer did you get regarding this in statute?
Could you direct me to it one more time?
Sure.
the
634, 13, section
13, page
13.
13. Okay, got it.
Page 13.
It's on page 13, I think, in board book.
Okay, got it.
14.
I follow it. The section, the headings on the previous
14,
12.
limit on screen time for children in preschool and kindergarten.
Exactly, yep.
Thank you, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So that comes from, so is the suggestion to shift that into our new policy as well?
Well, I was going to say, we have model language in 524 under Section 6 exceptions that we could just lift out of that policy and put it in here. And it's basically, nothing in this policy prohibits a student from using a personal electronic communications device for a purpose documented in the student's IEP, a plan developed under Section 504. This language has a little more clarity in terms of what is and isn't allowed, and it's in the other policy.
Yeah. I think, I'd have to check with Director Gordon. I think that this is referring to a different statute around screen time for certain age students.
Okay.
Which, that happened in
Trying to get that
big
original.
push in 2023.
Yeah.
There's a different statute. So that's what I'm trying to think about is, it's almost naming a different thing, which is individual screen usage by pre-K and kindergartners is not allowed in the classroom, so that,
But it is in statute allowed for the students with IEPs, 504 plans, et cetera.
got it.
I'm asking, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yes, like, this paragraph is literally from statute.
Statute.
It is.
Is
Okay,
my
got it.
understanding.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think that's why she wanted it included. I think you bring it up, a good question I would ask her is it more appropriate to cross-reference? I think we should just cross-reference it
Yeah.
with 524, so
I think
I'll
so.
ask Rachel to do that.
Yeah, statute 124D.166,
Okay,
limit on screen time.
cool. So I think this can come back on first reading, since we know we're going to be cross-referencing the other policy. I think we're fine.
Okay.
And next, let me,
Just a procedural question.
Yeah.
So if we wanted to add the 524 as a cross-reference, does it, like further down the line, would that need to come back through review committee, or, I just wonder.
probably, yeah, it would be on, one of those reference updates. Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. All right, next, policy 413, harassment and violence, with Stacy Sovine. Welcome.
Good evening. Bringing to you a policy on harassment and violence. Really, it's just a MSBA update to include the definition of disability to reflect the amended law. The addition is the definition to include episodic or different types of illness that may be in remission that could impact a person. And outside of that, that is pretty much it for this policy.
Good. Any questions, comments? Nope. All right, so this will go on first reading. Next, we'll go to policy 423, employee-student relationships.
Yeah, This one here, the only changes to the policy are actually updating the legal and the legal references. So that's the only updates to this.
Questions? Okay. This will be on consent. Next. 601R, School District Curriculum and Instruction Goals. And let me pull up. All right. At board request, these regulations are coming forward to review and be formally attached as regulations to Policy 601, School District Curriculum and Instruction Goals. MSBA conducted a review prior to today's presentation as well. Looking at the policy itself, under Section 2, General Statement of Policy, as well as in Section 4A2, we see alignment between policy language and the content of these regulations, and I'm recommending that we add these regulations under the policy.
I think it's fine. The way it's outlined, that's consistent with the way it's should be happening.
It is developed by the Burnsville High School staff,
Okay.
administration. Yes, it is. That is the
All
word.
right. Sounds good.
All right. I don't know if this is redundant, but under paragraph 2, under grade changes,
Under the regulation.
under the regulation, yep. Administration will have oversight of this process and may overturn in writing any grade change that does not follow the correct process. I don't know if we want to add in writing. Or if it's spelled out clearly.
So are you thinking overturn in writing, like some sort of a written justification, or?
I wouldn't even, I would, that the approval would be in writing. That's not in the, right, they may overturn in writing any grade change. But the approval needs to be in writing.
Yeah. So it's clear who it is that approved it.
Exactly, yeah. So then, this would be on, did I even put it in? Well, this would be first reading, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, policy 407, employee right to know.
Did you skip 699?
Did I skip one? I did, sorry. Policy 699, teaching about controversial issues. Yamina.
699. Thought we skipped you. There it is.
The policy language itself has no changes, it's just the non-substantive changes to update with the pronouns.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Any questions?
Nope.
Nope, okay, so this will be on consent. Next, we have policy 605.
407. Keep jumping ahead.
I must have skipped one. I seriously must have skipped one. Policy 407, employee right to know. Stacy.
Just funny, that was the one you said before.
I know.
Right here.
There are no changes for this policy.
Questions? No. All right, so this will be on consent. Policy 546, early admission to kindergarten with Amina.
This one had a substantial
Wasn't it 605? Sorry to keep doing this.
Alternative programs.
alternative programs.
Oh, my goodness. Alternative programs, I'm sorry.
But still,
Educational
Need more
services.
coffee today.
There were no updates to that particular policy, no changes.
Preston? No, okay.
I'm asking all my questions before you start.
Good. On consent. Next, we have 546, early admission to kindergarten.
There are no changes to that particular policy. It did go through a significant review about
Questions? All right, on consent. And our last policy is policy 611, homeschooling.
Upon that review, there haven't been any changes to the legislation, and so the policy stays the same.
Questions? All right. That will go on consent as well. Thank you. Sarah, do you have what you need?
And these will be on April 15th, or excuse me, April 24th.
The consent ones.
Oh, yeah, the consent ones, well, we haven't posted.
First reading.
For first reading, they could, yeah, April 24th. April 24th, yeah. And then the others will come back. Awesome. Thank you. We're adjourned.
Okay.